Ashes of Creation has been in the news recently a lot, largely because of a video by Josh Drive Hayes and a subsequent reaction by Narc. This is not a response to those videos. I mean, would someone really watch a response to a response? I want to start this video by saying that I want Ashes of Creation to succeed. I am generally a positive person when it comes to MMOs, and I want each one to succeed because I think different people can find their home in different MMOs. But with Ashes of Creation, with how beautiful the game is looking, it's kind of morphed into the great hope coming for the MMO genre. And with Riot's MMO still being pretty distant, it really might be to a lot of people. Now, I personally have pinned my hopes on another MMO. That might be obvious if you're on this channel at all, but that doesn't mean that Ashes of Creation isn't going to be offering something important to a large portion of the MMO fanbase. And it is perhaps the MMO out there with the largest scope. And to me, therein lies some of the problems. I have identified 4 reasons why I am concerned about Ashes of Creation. These reasons are completely my opinions, and you are more than welcome to disagree. Please do so respectfully down in the comment section, because then we can have a discussion about it, and maybe I can learn from you, especially if I misquote something. Of those 4 reasons, I want to establish what this is not. I am not here to try and say whether this game will or will not launch. I have been burned on crowdfunded games before, like these. I have also seen crowdfunded games that have really just kind of been amazing, like these. I withhold judgment on crowdfunded or kickstarted games, whatever you want to call it, unless there are giant red flags like this one. And while I realize talking about something like whether so-and-so game is a scam or not a scam, or if it's vaporware or anything like that, will probably get me a lot more views, that's not really what this channel is about. So now that that's all been established and at least half of you have left, let's get into it. And keep in mind, as I discuss these things, this game is deep in alpha. There is a lot of things that are subject to change. A lot of the information put here could be changed by the next alpha phase. Reason number 1, PvP.
I'm in danger!
PvP in Ashes of Creation is as close to mandatory as you can get in a game that is not billing itself as a hardcore PvP MMO. The current system they have in place for punishing player killers in Ashes of Creation doesn't really sound very dissimilar from systems that we've been playing in for decades in games like Ultima Online, which ultimately failed and they had to split the game into 2 different facets, and that kind of failed too. But it does have a couple tweaks to give them a little bit of credit. There is no full loot unless you are a player killer, for example. As the Ashes team has said in past years, PvP is the catalyst for change in Ashes of Creation. Caravans, arenas, guild wars, node sieges, and of course your random encounter with Joey McPvP face out in the wild, who just really wants to get out that anger issue on you.
Hey, how you doing?
I'll admit, sometimes after a long day of work, I am Joey McPvP face. I was really that in Shadowbane. I was a total dick. Why do I enjoy that thought so much? There's like another side of me that really enjoyed being an asshole. With Ashes of Creation being so dependent on PvP for their systems, and with it being strictly not opt-in, as in there are very few safe zones within the game, barring a hard pivot away from PvP, it's likely going to be pretty essential to the game, and that could spell trouble. Mainstream MMOs have moved away from open world PvP really since World of Warcraft had PvP servers. Most PvP in games that have massive populations tends to be opt-in, and often equalized. In this, Ashes is pulling back towards older games like Ultima Online and Shadowbane, as well as newer games like Mortal Online 2. Just a little bit less hardcore. This could be a silver lining though. There will be a lot of other things to do in Ashes. Plenty of PvE, and exciting PvE at that, if the videos we've seen are any indication. The aforementioned system of disincentivizing PKing may also limit frustrations associated, since loot drops will be limited as a green or even purple in their PvP system. So if there are other things to do instead of just PvP, perhaps it will not be so incentivized because there will be more choices of what you can do in the game. Reason number 2 is in a way still part of PvP, but it's a more recent concern and it has more than just that. The node system and its associated governors, voting system, and essentially just nodes in general are what I consider to be player-generated content. Player-generated content can be amazing. It can create incredible stories for those involved and even create legends, but it can also crater if thresholds aren't met for player numbers. This is something that popped in my head after Stephen Sharif's recent AMA talking about spot testing for Alpha 2 and the potential need to merge servers to keep the events populated, something they haven't fully fleshed out yet. This could impact nodes, caravans, really everything relating to some of the core systems in the world. Even dynamic PvE events, which were mentioned earlier this past year in May in a development update. I wonder how adaptable they will be to high or low population. But Redbeard, isn't this an issue for all games? Isn't it an issue that's not just limited to Ashes of Creation? Why are you doing this? Are you just desperately trying to find 4 different reasons to get some people to watch this video? Well, no, because there's some specific things with Ashes of Creation that have me concerned. Population in an MMO is essential, but few seem to be so built on it like Ashes of Creation since the likes of Warhammer Online and Shadowbane, whose entire game hinged on large active populations for both PvP and PvE events. More modern MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2, or even updated games like World of Warcraft, are built in ways to take advantage of that population while also insulating themselves from the negative effects by providing solo stories and solo content that does actually engross you and pull you into the game. Warhammer Online specifically, I remember as a game that I may incorrectly be tying to Ashes because of its RVR, Realm vs. Realm Lakes, and its public quests. It was innovative at its time. In fact, public quests, I believe, actually originated with Warhammer Online. So if you enjoy them in other games today, thank Warhammer Online. But when the population in that game dwindled, even a little bit, the whole system just broke down. RVR lengths went underutilized. Public quests didn't properly scale, making some of them impossible. At least impossible to finish. Entire sections of content just died because there wasn't a population to sustain it. And that's honestly my concern with Ashes is, will they learn from the lessons of Warhammer Online and insulate themselves from that possibility? Can you still do things on a dead server? Because a dead server will happen. They happen in every MMO. But like with the previous point, if the team at Intrepid can do this well, if they can insulate against low populations, something they can thoroughly test with limited test participants, these events truly can be special. The dynamic PvE events especially have my attention. Let's just hope they have a plan in place by launch to deal with the boom and bust cycle that is impacting MMO. Number 3 on my concerns is the parallels between Ashes of Creation and Star Citizen. And yes, that is something I did not want to talk about in depth, but as Ashes flexes its muscles showing details like pollen, I can't help but think of Star Citizen and their bed sheets. As amazing as these effects look, are they necessary? Some things like seasons feel integral to the game, especially with their dynamic PvE event system. But there's a lot of window dressing being added on, which often has a diminishing return, and you'll see especially why when I get to my 4th reason. But that's not the reason why I bring up Star Citizen. I want to talk about what made me lose faith in Ashes of Creation a few years ago, and why it's taken me so long to build some of it back up. Whenever a crowdfunded MMO branches off into a side project, alarms start to go off for me. I felt this way with Squadron 42, I felt this way with Camelot Unchained and their PvE game Ragnarok Colossus, and most notably to me, EverQuest Landmark. And Ashes of Creation did that with Apocalypse. It's something that really just continues to make me a little concerned, especially since it seems like that battle royale has been abandoned. You'll often hear things like, this game is helping us develop the MMO, or that it won't take away focus from the MMO, but so far I haven't really seen an example where it hasn't been disruptive. It could be disruptive to the community, it could be disruptive to the developers. There's always an impact. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear it, but there's currently a tornado watch going on as I'm recording this video. It's a lot of rain and a lot of wind, so I may lose some power and have to record this later. You won't notice because this is a YouTube video. I'll notice. So I guess I don't really have to tell you that. Anyway, reason number 4. Ever since Ashes of Creation moved over to Unreal Engine 5, it's shown off the beauty that can be accomplished with that engine. This stands head and shoulders over other options. Even the most devout Pantheon Rise of the Fallen fans, for example, aren't going to come out and say Pantheon is looking better in Unity than Ashes of Creation in Unreal Engine 5. But there's a lesson to be learned from MMO history about graphics. Travel back with me to November of 2004. World of Warcraft and EverQuest 2 were both about to launch. At the time, World of Warcraft was on the precipice of greatness, but no one could have guessed it would hit the heights that it did. It was openly disparaged for its low quality and cartoony graphics that honestly didn't look much better than EverQuest, which had launched 5 years earlier. In fact, some were positing that the Lucklin era graphics in EverQuest were actually better than how early WoW launched. EverQuest 2, on the other hand, was ahead of its time. It provided graphics that were much improved from World of Warcraft, and went for a more realistic tone. The world was created in a way to make players feel immersed in the environments. It was relying heavily on that visual muscle where World of Warcraft had sacrificed it. Take, for example, this old video of a raid encounter in the early game. I remember back when this video came out just being dumbfounded from what was possible in a game. The system specs were similarly disparate, with EverQuest 2 requiring a much beefier computer to play. It wasn't just specs though. When World of Warcraft launched, it was heralded for how smooth it was. Your input felt seamless. It just worked, and it felt good. EverQuest 2 chugged a little bit, but it was still good. It was still a solid game, but it had a limited audience because of the requirements on its computer spec. And honestly, the rest is history. Now, this is not to say that Ashes of Creation will fail because it may or may not have more intense requirements. We live in a different age of computers than we did back in 2004. The silver lining of this particular point is that if they can optimize well, and if the GPUs continue to drop in price as technology moves forward while this game is in development, perhaps it will, while not future-proof, still be at the cutting edge. I think at this point we're reaching uncanny levels of realism in game. I mean, after all, Ashes of Creation was able to make Asmongold in their character creation. But that's just what I think. I want to know what you think. I want to know if you're a supporter of Ashes of Creation or not. What do you think its potential best successes could be, and what are its biggest pitfalls? And yes, I will be doing a video like this on Pantheon Rise of the Fallen as well, because while I may be biased, I'm at least going to be honest with you. But lest you think I'm all gloom and doom about Ashes of Creation, I did a video not too long ago on the kind of impressive and amazing weather effects that are probably going to kill my computer. Weather effects like the storm that is currently raging as I record this video. And while Mother Nature has so kindly given me a nice way to plug this video that I have right over here on the weather effects in both Ashes of Creation and Pantheon, why not take a look? Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider leaving a like right down there somewhere. It does a lot for this channel and it means a lot to me. Thank you so much for your time here. My name is Redbeard Flynn, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.